My name is Jeremy Queno. That is what I say when people ask me who I am. But that is not the name I was given. My father named me Remy. R-E-M-Y. Simple, easy to pronounce, easy to remember. And it doesn't mean anything in particular. I'm sure my dad simply liked how it sounded and didn't have the time to think up some deep, sophisticated meaning. But if anything, I'm grateful to him for that name. I later on came to find out that if it were up to my mom, I would have been named Francis. Now, can you imagine me as a Francis? So I was perfectly fine with Remy. That was up until I went to school and a group of my friends started questioning whether Remy was a boy's name or even a name at all. They concluded that Remy must be the short form of the name Jeremy because they had seen this in the storybooks and novels that they had been reading. Now, being the shy and timid guy that I was, I initially tried to stop them from calling me that, but eventually I gave up because I felt Jeremy is okay too. It only became an issue when it was time to go to college. You see, half of my documents had Remy and the other half had Jeremy. So when the examinations office saw this, I was summoned. So I went to the staff common room and I saw the strict, cheeky examinations officer asking questions. He said, "It says Jeremy on these documents and it says Remy on your exam. So my friend, who are you? Should we call you Remy? Should we call you Jeremy? Or should I add Jeremiah?" That's what made it even worse, the Jeremiah. But that was the first time I had my identity questioned. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, it is easy to present our names, our titles, our occupations, or our accomplishments when we're asked the question, "Who are you?" But our names are just words, and our titles are just letters attached to our names. Our occupations are activities that we perform, and our accomplishments are things we did in the past. But do these really define who we are? If all your titles and accomplishments were stripped away, would you cease to exist? If nobody knew who you were or knew your name, would you disappear? I don't think so. You would still be here. But the question is, what is left of us when all our representations and our accolades are no longer there? Bob Proctor in an interview said, "We live simultaneously in three planes of understanding. We are spiritual beings, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies. But because we lack of an understanding of who we are locked into a physical world and we are controlled by factors that are external of us." And I believe that was quite deep. When I first started working in the corporate setting, I had a lady boss who was very strict about her meeting schedule with clients. She would only see you if you had scheduled in advance. In my very early days of working with her, she had a client come in unannounced. I went to see him, took his name, and proceeded to tell her that she had a client come in. As expected, she wasn't too pleased, and she asked me what his name was. Let's call him John Doe. So I presented his name, and she said, "Yes, I see his name, but who is he?" Being quite naive at the time, I proceeded to describe him. I said he's a tall, dark, elderly man in a grey and black kaftan. She started laughing. Then she said, "I meant, is he important?" It was then I began to realize the kind of identity that she was interested in. As I went back out to find out how important he was, I noticed that he had also gotten impatient with the delay and was standing staring at me with a frown. As I approached, and before I could say a single word, he stood up and looked at me and said, "Young man, do you know who I am?" He then proceeded to inform me that he was from the office of the Minister of Finance, which I took back to my boss, and she promptly came out to welcome and greet him, something I had never seen her do before. But this occurrence got me thinking, and it revealed to me that perhaps the reason why we identify based on our titles, our accomplishments, and our occupation is because that is what society recognizes and places value in. Two of the common questions that are very recognizable in our society today are, do you know who I am? Or more recently, are you my co-equal? And they are questions that people ask when they want to be respected or they want to be recognized. But these are also prime examples of the external factors or influences that Bob Proctor spoke about in his interview. But it also got me to question myself. Was I really being true to myself, or was I simply internalizing the external influences that the society and environment around me were presenting? A few years down the line, I ran into Mr. John Doe once again. This time, he was no longer working in the office of the Ministry of Finance due to the change of government. But it was very surprising to hear how humble he sounded as compared to the very first time that I met him. It was evident that the very foundations of his identity, which supported his confidence, were no longer there. So fellow Toastmasters, based on these experiences that I've had, I concluded that my identity is what I stand for. And it includes my experiences, my beliefs, my values, and my relationships. The journey of self-discovery is a progressive and unending one. But as long as we know what we stand for, it gives us that grounding and that confidence to chart our own path and not become slaves of external influence. I am still on this journey of self-discovery, and in the famous words of Michael Jackson, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Cheers, guys.